I always complain about TAA in games for being too blurry, but here if you use sharpening with it, it honestly looks pretty good, but then you lose frames for sharpening and anti-aliasing, so in my opinion it's better to just turn AA off for 4% performance boost. As I said previously, you're going to lose around 2% performance with fidelity FX sharpening, but if you decide to play with TAA, then you should keep sharpening on, but I recommend turning it off together with AA since you don't need sharpening with anti-aliasing off. Motion blur in a FPS game is a no-go. Even if you like playing with it on, maybe 4% boost in frames is going to sway you the other way. You might notice chromatic aberration on treetops in certain lighting condition if you are looking for it, and since there is no difference in performance, just set it to whatever you prefer. Post-processing seems to mostly affect ambient occlusion and only really on the lowest setting where it turns it off, you're going to get a massive 20% frame rate boost, which makes me think that maybe it affects volumetric fog too, but you can never really tell a difference between volumetric fog settings. In the end, put this setting on low and good luck finding any difference in visuals while actually playing the game. Textures in this game actually can give you some frames even when you're within your VRAM limit, but honestly, at the lowest setting, where you can get around 5% performance, you can notice the difference, mostly thanks to anisotropic filtering being off. In any case, leave it on Epic unless you won't have enough VRAM or really want those frames. It's hard to tell a difference in effects quality. The only thing that I really notice is lower amount and lower quality of bitmap particles like leaves and dust. Other than that, I really can't tell any difference, which allows me to say set it to low and be happy with 7% extra FPS. With shadows, the lower you go, the harsher the shadows are. Instead of decent looking soft shadows, you're going to get a pixelated sharp ones. Additionally, on low, some characters and objects are going to lose their shadows. Big visual difference without really any performance gain between medium and low, so my recommendation is to set shadows to low. You can gain some performance with foliage, but honestly, I wouldn't recommend it. The lower you go, the more grass you lose to the point where it just looks weird. Losing some bushes and smaller trees isn't really a problem though. Keep it on epic unless you consider visibility. On low, there are quite few bushes missing, which will allow you to spot zombies faster, and there isn't really any popping, the bushes are just simply gone. With image scaling, we have two options, DLSS and AMD's FSR. Both of them are pretty good, but I honestly prefer FSR simply because the image doesn't lose sharpness like it does with the Nvidia's technology, but what the DLSS does with thin geometry like fences and cables is just magic. Where there are very pixelated fences in native 4K, all of a sudden with DLSS the fence is perfect. In the end, this one is going to be either a personal preference or simply based on your hardware, since AMD cards cannot use DLSS. In the end, I personally prefer FSR set to ultra quality or maybe even just quality based on the resolution you're playing. Overall, with my optimized preset, you should gain around 64% performance at basically no visual fidelity loss. Just remember, never play games on Ultra. DX12 or DX11? Simple answer to this question, set it to 12. Direct on average is very dependent on your hardware configuration, but I'm almost certain that 99% of people are going to benefit from DX12 in this game. What I noticed is that on Direct 11 the game was heavily slapping single core to the point where the GPU wasn't being fully utilized. I have no numbers to give you here since, like I said, it's going to depend on your hardware config, but set it to Direct 12.